back to Steiny and Guru on 95.7 The Game.
All right, the question we're asking today is what's happened to the San Francisco Giants? And I'm not talking about getting swept by the Phillies over the weekend.
Yeah.
I'm talking about what happened in the last 6 or 8 years to essentially, from my vantage point, turn the fan base off. Maybe people disagree with me and say and think it's not as bad as maybe we're making it. But I'm just setting it up this way. As someone who's been around for a while, when the Giants were winning titles in 10, 12, 14, and even when they went to the playoffs in 16, this town was on fire. The Giants and San Francisco were inseparable. They had an unbelievable bond with their fans, and it seems like it's gone. And I'm wondering what all the reasons are, Goo, for why that has happened, because I'm sure there's more than one or two.
Yeah, and I'm going to read this text because we don't shy away from anything, Stanley, from the 925. I know this is a sports channel, but you guys have to bring up politics when you're talking about the Giants. San Francisco's turning into Oakland, and you know it. Look what happened to Oakland. Tough to talk about, but please bring that up. We've talked about the majority owner for the Giants, Mr. Johnson.
Well, does he mean the owner of the Giants, or does he mean like the city has fallen into some disrepair so people aren't going?
Oh, I took it as some of the political stuff from the majority owner, Mr. Johnson.
And it very well may be.
But, Stoney, this is bigger than that, right? This is I don't have the answer. It's kind of scary. And I said something, and we discussed it yesterday, and I drove home like, how does one define that? But I'll throw it to you on your computer. The death of a dynasty, the price. Where the last championship was 14. It's 2024.
Yep.
The last playoff appearance was 60. When they won 107 a couple years ago. So is this just par for the course in regard to? But you haven't replenished your stars.
I think enough time has gone by at this point.
I do too.
I mean, how much time do you need? 888-957-9570 is the number. Let's go out to Bob. Bob's in San Francisco. Hey, Bob, how you doing, man? What's going on?
Hey, I love the show, guys.
Thank you.
I think it's threefold. I think it's, number one, past is prologue. No team stays on top. So, and if they did, everybody be bored.
That's
so you
true.
got to root every few years for a new team, a new brand of team to come in and try to take the title. The other thing is ownership. Like when Lacob took over the Warriors, he changed it completely. When the ownership group had Fabian running the show, he changed things completely. And look at Dr. York. He totally screwed up the 49ers until the Sun took over. So you have to look at ownership as well, the direction. Right?
All right.
That's my second one. And the third one, obviously, it may be ticket prices. Now, traditionally, baseball has been the cheapest sport
No doubt.
to attend. But some of the other sports, the skyrocket. It's like sky's the limit for their profit. So, anyway, that's what I got. Thanks, guys.
Good stuff, Bob. Appreciate it. I think the ticket prices reason, it seems to go hand in hand with losing or not a successful team. I think for the most part, like I've heard over the years people talk about how expensive the Warriors tickets are. Well, they're in the middle of a dynasty.
And the place was still packed.
Exactly. And the place is still packed now. And the place is going to be packed next year. And the place is going to be packed the year after that. As long as Steph Curry's in town, that place is
I want to read something to you.
Yeah.
Our brethren,
packed.
our guy, Joe Shasky just texted us to Butcher Boys, Downey, and I want your answer because it hit me. Let me ask you a hypothetical question. We don't know if Will Clark is any good at even picking players. He might be just as bad as Farhan, but if Will Clark was named GM, wouldn't there be an overall optimism just because he's a baseball guy? And I got to say, Downey, I feel like there's something to that.
Well, then why isn't Melvin getting the benefit of the doubt?
Wow.
He was
I'm
a baseball
giving it to
guy
him.
and a
I'm
Bay
giving it
Area
to him
guy.
early.
I think those guys can carry you for a while in terms of creating excitement, but I don't think it's a long-term thing. Let's go to John. I want to go to John in San Francisco.
that.
He wants to defend Farhan Zaidi. What's happening, John? How you doing, man?
What's going on? Hey, I love the show. First-time caller, long-time listener.
Okay.
And, I just think that Zaidi gets a little too much heat compared to, like, Sabian and Bobby Evans. I think that Sabian and Evans kind of tanked our team in the late 2010s trying to keep it afloat in 2016, a little postseason push there. And I think they emptied out our farm system, and Farhan has pretty much done the dirty work over the past 4 or 5 years of fixing the farm system. And now we actually have pitching prospects coming up. We actually have some pitching prospects that are looking good. And I think that we didn't have any because of Bobby Evans or Brian Sabian. And, they made some good trades to get us some World Series titles. That's great. But they also kind of shot us in the foot for setting us up for failure over the couple of years after they left. So I don't know. I think that Zaidi is not the only culprit here. I think he's done some good moves, but specifically he's done the dirty work that no one really cares about of fixing our farm system.
Well, let me ask you this.
So I'm feeling pretty confident about the next couple of years.
Okay.
I know the results aren't there, but I don't know.
Well,
what do you guys think?
Let me ask you this.
Go ahead, Stan. I got a question.
When will we start seeing the Farhan prospects? Because right now we've just got 2 of them. We got Harrison and Patrick Bailey.
Yeah, no, it's true. Our pitchers like Mason Black and Kaiwei Tang, they were looking so good in the minors, and then they come up and they kind of tank in their first couple of starts. So I'm confident Mason Black will kind of get it together in his next start. I really am.
Okay.
But, you're right. There's not a lot to point out at the major league level right now with Farhan. I agree, but I think it's also because our farm system was kind of shot, and we don't have a lot of people.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, because you make some good points, and you're right about the baseball on the big league level for pitchers is, it's a shock. But the fact that Farhan handpicked Gabe Kapler that was his decision, and for whatever reason he had to fire him and move on. Don't you think he should have went with him? Like that's what that there's a stench in the room for me. Like that was your guy. You're safe, and he's going to be the fall guy. That to me, that reeks. I don't like that.
I can't disagree with you. I don't think that there's anything concrete you can point at that Kapler did wrong or anything like that. But I also think that Bob Melvin is just a much better manager as far as bullpen, as far as just being a better player relationship kind of guy. It seems like people will want to come here more because of Bob Melvin rather than Gabe Kapler. So I'm not disappointed about that, but I don't know. I can't disagree with you there.
Thanks, John.
It's kind of a bad look.
Appreciate it, John. Thank you very much. And let me point out.
Go ahead.
It's still early.
That's what I've been saying, and you've been shocked. And you got Soler. Like, it's not working. Chapman, he's not Chapman of the Oakland A's. Donnie, their last playoff run, but I don't know what he's going to be. But they went shopping. They got Snell. And, again, I know it's all just distorted right now, but we can't say Farhan didn't get up off the mat and bring some guys in here. That's why I keep saying it's early. It's ugly. They still got like a boring feel to me. They're not booting the ball around. The defense has gotten better. They take more fastballs down the middle than any other team. I don't understand that. So when they do swing, there's some damage done, Stoney, but it is early. But Bo Mel, this is what scares me about him, and I love Melvin. You had the Padres, so you had all the talent in the world, and for whatever reason, you got ran. And now here you go. You don't have that talent at your disposal, but are we so sure that Bo Mel is the guy? So early through 37 games, Donnie, you're right. It's not looking pretty, but we're not 80 games in.
We'll have Brian Sabian himself on at 11 o'clock. He's just confirmed. So former Giants executive and general manager Brian Sabian, he's going to join us at 11 o'clock. He was inducted into the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame last night.
Dope.
And looking forward to talking to Brian Sabian. He's always very forthcoming. And on a personal level, he's one of my favorites.
You like him?
Yeah, I love him. I really do.
Bobby Evans was in the house,
I like his
too.
whole act.
Stoney, they came and talked. We were chopping it up, and they just came like some real regular guys. Not stuck up or I'm too big, to talk to you. And so that was another part of last night that was It was awesome. Just watching guys not take themselves too seriously and introducing themselves, Donnie, and having just baseball conversation, man. They missed that. How about that?
Yeah. 888-957-9570 is the number. And I'm thinking about a lot of things. I was thinking about Brian Sabian being inducted into the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame. Giants have just been swept by the Phillies. They're 6 games under. There seems to be a malaise around the team. And I thought back to the championship years and how the San Francisco Giants, they were it. They were the scene. And here we are 6 or 8 years later, and they're trying to pick up the pieces of I don't know, of a dynasty long past. Is this just, here's the other thing, that and maybe I'll say this about the Warriors in 4 years. Guys, this is just what happens. Like, this is what happens. You win World Series, you win 3 World Series in 5 years, and it's hard to play young guys, and it's all the guys in your farm system, and then your farm system gets depleted because you're going after ready-now players. I mean, maybe this is just the price of a dynasty, and it hits you 6 or 8 years later.
Well, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'll say this to that. Joey Bart, I'm not going to compare him to James Wiseman, Stoney, but let's just say he was a young Johnny Bench or a young Buster Posey. That was to replenish. That was to give fans, yeah, Buster Posey's an all-time great Hall of Famer, but here's the next. And they missed on that. So I bring that up only because if it's about the product on the field, I guess if I were the Giant front office, I'd sleep a little better. Okay, we've identified the problem. We need to get better. We need to, get better players in here. Then everything will go away. But when you're talking about an 8-year span, there's something bigger going on. And I don't know what it is.
888-957-9570 is the number. It's a simple question. What has happened to the San Francisco Giants in the last 8 years? How'd they go from where they were to where they are?
Can I ask you an honest question?
Yeah.
Can you remember how many Giant games you went to last year? And the only reason I just thought of, I know how many Warrior games. That's
0 or 1.
Wow, Stoney, okay. And can I ask why?
I wasn't interested.
In the team?
No, I wasn't interested in the team, really.
Wow.
It just wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't. Well, first of all, and this is an important point.
I'm thinking about all this.
And I'll be honest with you. We're lucky here because a lot of times we can go to the game as a working media member. Right. And that's a big difference. But I do think money is a part of this. You can't, in the Bay or in San Francisco, I've been here long enough to know you can't put a mediocre product on the field. Or hell, you can't have a mediocre ballet. You can't have a mediocre opera in the Bay. You just can't. People expect and want more. And so you start stringing together seasons where you're 500 or not quite 500. And I know the 107-win team was an anomaly.
But Stoney,
but still,
people showed up, though. People showed up for 107. It was like old time. Shasky was running down in Embarcadero before the playoff game. Bonte narrating it felt like old times. That game against the Dodgers, Steiny, the one they lost,
I didn't feel it. And I felt a spark. Listen, 2010 to 2015 was 300 days a year.
I got you.
It was, you knew when the Giants played. You knew who they played. You probably knew who was the starting pitcher. So that, they might have captured a little something during the 107, but I'm talking about how the Giants went from running the Bay to the third wheel. And
their last chip was the birth of the Warriors dynasty, but they don't cross-reference each other this season, so I'm not saying the Warriors.
But they cross-reference the money. So if you have a budget and you can go to one sporting event a year, you'll probably go to the Warriors. And that's one thing I've never really, been able to categorize is how much the other teams affect the Giants or how much the other teams affect the Warriors, because I do believe there's a competition among those teams. There's a competition for the fans. And I get it. A lot of fans of all three teams, but if you can't go to, if you're not a season ticket holder of all three teams, who gets your money for the game you can go to?
Now, I got to be careful with that, Stoney, because I just thought of New York with the Yankees, Mets, Knicks, and Giants and Jets. Those places are full. The Philadelphia area for the Phillies, the Sixers, and the Eagles. So I'm not saying that's a cop-out, Stoney, but if you're in love and you've become attached to players or players, you're going to find a way to do both and go see Buster, maybe, you know, the new Buster Posey or Brandon Crawford. Like, why wasn't that an issue during that era?
Because they were winning.
Yeah.
And they had players that we recognized. And they had players that the fans loved. Pablo Sandoval.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a connection between the Giants and San Francisco that's gone right now.
Who's the face of the Giants now, if I were to ask you? And how big of an award is that? Like, look at, you're thinking
Probably
about it.
Logan Webb.
And he's a pitcher. That's one day,
Well, Lincecum was, and he was a pitcher.
But you also had Panda, Posey, Crawford, and Beldiff. So I'd say the everyday player.
I don't know.
Huh?
Let me think. I mean, is it Yaz?
No, it's not yet.
Well, who is it then? Is it Wilmer Flores? Like, seriously?
No, I think the answers are, like, the point of the question was that the clock ticked before you got to somebody.
209 says we're in a recession. Are we? I guess we're.
I go to the Chase Center, and those prices, and that place is packed.
Most people cannot afford to go to the game. I'm there. I mean, I get it. If you're spending a couple $100 to go to a Giants game, they got to be better than that.
All right, Stoney, I've said it and we talked about it, but real quick, the right on the table again, brought to you by Atco to me is, are we acting like baseball's not dying? And maybe that's not getting anybody off the hook. How big of that is this Giants problem?
It's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. It's a feeling. It's a sense. It's a sense of where the Giants have been and where they are now.
Well, wow.
That's what it is. It's not, I get it. Baseball's struggling. I get it. But this team, I should say this city gets behind winners.
Yeah.
It does.
Well, then maybe that's the number one problem. Just win and they'll be back. And like I said, Evan said they're 11th, Stoney. That's not 28th or 24th. I mean, they're 11th.
How much Giants do we talk about?
Our show, pretty much none. And I hate it.
It's because there's not a huge demand for it right now.
Man, oh, man.
I mean, I was doing shows in 2015. It was all Giants. And it was fun. They were winning.